Good evening. My name is Helen Anthony. I'm the chair of the Committee on Finance and calling to order our regular meeting on Tuesday, February 25th at 5:33 p.m. Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Chairwoman Anthony,
Present.
Vice Chairman Taylor is absent, Counselor Angela. Present. Councilwoman Graves,
Present.
Counselor Sanchez. We have 4 present and 1 absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you so much, and I would like to welcome Michael Polisi from the legal department this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a treat to have you. I'm not sure if you can really short stuff. Very
Very glad to be here.
And then Carissa and Donna, our clerks, thank you very much. With that, would you please read item number 1?
An ordinance amending chapter 17, officers and employees, article 3, compensation and other benefits, division 1, in general, section 17 through 57, holiday pay.
Okay, and who do we have presenting on this today? I believe it's Miguel Youngs.
He's on the way over. I was just talking to say.
Okay, then we will rearrange our agenda. I appreciate that. Why don't I take a motion, if we may, and start with item number 2, since Michael. Okay, so thank you. Okay, a motion made by Councilor Graves, seconded by Councilor Sanchez. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, then let's start with agenda item number 2.
An ordinance relating to Article 4, Chapter 17, Section 17 through 189F of the Code of Ordinances, Disability Waiver Request, Melanie Borges.
Wonderful. And who do we have here?
Melanie.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Borges. If you wouldn't mind just going to the end of the table and we'll stand and swear you in. Okay.
Please raise your right hand. You swear on the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is true, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And please state your name.
Melanie Borges. Ms. Borges, please have a seat, and thank you so much for coming this evening.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, not
Really.
a problem, not a problem. So if you wouldn't mind just telling us, why you're here this evening and tell us why you're requesting the waiver.
I have been an employee of the city of Providence for nearly 34 years, if I do the math, and have worked in various departments. 6 years ago, I was assaulted by a student on the school bus, and through no fault of the student, and I mean this wholeheartedly, she was suffering from a mental disability. She had a 1-to-1 on that school bus, so she had an aide directly with her while we were on the bus. After filling in, I came back on and the young lady was beating up her aide, and I stepped in and took the beating. She split my face open and bruised me right through my chest. I didn't know that there was an 18-month period. I had no idea that that was a thing. I didn't intend on being out of work for this long.
Can you give us a date when the incident occurred?
November 16th, 2018.
Okay, and you were out of work for how long?
I have been out of work since then, yes.
And you weren't aware that there was an 18-month period?
I had no idea. And again, I had no intention of being out of work. And I've seen like the city doctors and like something's wrong. So I have been diagnosed with
If I can speak up, Jonathan Dash, Director of OSHA for the city. I don't inherently, because I came as well for the case, I don't have a problem with the waiver itself. I have not had a chance to look at it.
All right, we're going to have you swear, if you wouldn't mind, so.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, thank you for interjecting, I
Yes.
appreciate it, so if you wouldn't mind being sworn in.
Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name again for the record.
Jonathan Bastion, the occupation safety and health with the city.
Okay, and it's Jonathan Bastion.
Yes.
Thank you, welcome.
So, I came for the case as well. I typically have no problem with the waivers. I'm not sure what the policy is for the school department as to how they notify their employees of the 18-month waiver. But without it, we just kind of have the employees floating on workers' comp, where we need to really make a decision whether it is appropriate to grant an accidental disability or not.
Okay.
So in this case, I would have to reach out to the medical records to actually review the incident that took place and to find out what the IME process is that she's currently in. I know I reached out to retirement today and they did not yet have all of the files, but that would be the next step in the process. So I am in favor of approving the waiver.
Okay, great, I appreciate that, and we have had, I'll just say, as a committee, been very respectful of the claims that people were unaware of and understanding that if we allow this waiver, that it still has to go through a process, even after allowing the waiver. So with that said, I appreciate both of you coming tonight. Is there any questions or comments that any members? Yes,
I
please.
just wanted to check, because you were in the middle of a sentence, and so.
Oh, yeah, I don't even know.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, I just didn't want you to feel like you couldn't finish your thought.
I think I was just saying that, and there's all the records will support this, from both the city.
Okay, I'm sorry. Now we're gonna have Sarah
Sorry.
Silveria, please. Somebody sworn.
Sarah, you swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but
I do.
the truth. And you can state your name for the record.
I'm Sarah Silverian, Finance Director for the City of Providence.
Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify a couple of things with Jonathan here as well, but the waiver request is really just allowing this person to apply for accidental disability and not to like talk about their medical issues in committee.
Yeah,
That would happen with a retirement board and the medical
Right.
subcommittee. So this request is simply to allow this person to go through the application process because they missed that deadline. So I just wanted to-
Director.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
Okay, don't worry. And the fact you showed up tonight is great because, thank you very much. And Director, I appreciate the explanation. And so I am going to.
Second.
All right, the motion to approve is made by Councilor Ingersoll, seconded by Councilor Sanchez. All in favor? Aye, all opposed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Okay, and since we have Mr. Bastion at the table, I don't know if Director Silveria, do you want to stay for the other? Okay, fine. I am going to take, have agenda item number 3, read, please.
An ordinance relating to Article 4, Chapter 17, Section 17 through 189F of the Code of Ordinances, disability waiver request, Adelina Mendez.
Okay, and is, Adelina here this evening?
Do not believe so,
Okay,
but it's similar circumstances. We review the waivers. We don't have a problem with approving the waiver. Once again, this doesn't approve them for accidental disability. It just gives us the opportunity to review the file and determine if the employee would qualify and then to submit the required paperwork.
okay, thank you very much. And, I think we usually have the person here. Is there a reason that, Adelina Mendez is not here this evening?
we did contact them.
Pardon?
They were copied on an email and didn't respond.
Okay, and, solicitor, is it possible for us to entertain this without the applicant themselves?
If they were properly noticed, yes,
It is fine for us to act.
I believe so, but if you perhaps want to move off the item and come back to it, I can verify that, but I believe because they were properly noticed and they have the opportunity to be here, even if they didn't take it.
Oh, okay, all right.
But I will clarify.
Also, as was the employee has filed to apply for accidental disability, correct?
I do not know. I
Well, we
would
have-
assume so,
Yeah.
yes, I would assume they are. I mean, that's what we have, so I think. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. Madam Auditor, do you have anything to add? Okay.
I mean, my question would be, why is it like? I mean, it's different, it's, oh, wait, no, it's.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to do the solicitor's unverified opinion at this point, and go ahead and pass it today. I really don't see a problem with this being, it's, in my opinion, more procedural. And in the past, we've been pretty consistent with our actions on these waivers, waiver request. And so, I'll ask for a motion. Okay, motion to approve by Councilor Anderball, seconded by Councilor Sanchez, all in favor? Aye, all opposed, thank you so much. Thank you.
How often is this gonna happen? 18 months and then years later? I mean, 2018. It's walking along.
2018.
Yeah, I think we need to start finding it, because. It just looks like it just keeping people on.
Yeah.
Right now.
Okay,
And we can't keep just brushing it under the table. We need to figure out what needs to be done to get them in a more reasonable time. 18 months is a pretty good length of time, and so I think, yeah, I think this is now, this is the gate. Oh, yeah, because we're gonna let you go. And I understand that there's issues, but I think we also need to stop doing this. Because we're talking about monies that is just continuing flowing, and we don't know reasons here. And I think it's city and ourselves need to come to some type of conclusion of making sure that we go out, contact these people, find out what's going on, and be more diligent in this instead of waiting for us. That's 4 years,
okay.
and that's not more 4 years ago.
Yeah. And I think what I'll do is, I'll ask, since we don't have Aaron here, we have Miguel substituting for Aaron. I think what we'll do is make sure that before we have any more disability waivers, that we have, a presentation, you know, on at least some presentation on why the delay.
And is it something that we as the cities should be, I think because it falls on the city,
Right.
it falls on us, you know, and making sure that. There's, you know, something is done, are we notifying them? Because I don't have any idea. Somebody should have been telling her, you know.
Yeah, and we've dealt with this issue before.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying.
And I
This is
think we
not the
have a
first
pretty
time.
good process, I'm pretty convinced, based
What?
on prior testimony, that we've had a good process in the city, but we're also not sure about the school department.
What I find comfort in it though, Councilwoman Graves, is they still gotta go through like the board, like that's the one that determines like if they are eligible for those
How many
benefits.
years, it's still, the years are going by
Right,
before they go, you know, so I think we need to shorten this thing or. Find out what is really going on and get them to the proper places where they need to be in the funding that they need to be getting, because they're not getting the proper funding this way, if that's the case. And.
well, I
where everybody-
know, from, I guess conversations like city is like the notices wasn't like getting out there. In her case, as a school employee, I think it's in the best interest for us to figure out what the school department's process is and noticing.
Because I think previously we've had the union reps come in,
Yes.
represent them,
Yes.
and maybe some of the folks, and they talked about the process of this cleaning up and making sure they notices, but.
But I mean, but how long, I mean, we've been doing this for 2 years.
Yeah.
This is, we're going for 3 years, so.
Madam Chair,
Yeah,
my employer was notified.
Oh.
We did send, yeah, we always sent to him. I copied the 2 applicants on his email.
Okay, well then we'll.
He
we're
never
gonna
responded
discuss-
either, so.
I appreciate it.
Yes,
We
Thank you,
will,
I appreciate that.
yeah, I can just pass on, I'm sorry, Miguel, if you would pass on to Aaron that we need to make sure that we have a presentation and that it's consistent with, you know, we need a union rep, the person and, maybe a little education before our next disability. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Councilor. I appreciate that. Okay, with that, I think we are going to move on to, I think we're just gonna move on and put number one at the end. I think we're going to go ahead with, item number 4.
Resolution authorizing approval of the following contract award by the Board of Contract and Supply in accordance with section 21 through 26B1 of the Code of Ordinances. First work, $600,000, Department of Art, Culture, and Tourism.
All right, hello.
Hello.
How are you? Thank you.
Fantastic, how are you?
Good. Okay, we're gonna swear you in. Would you like to?
We swear on the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do, I swear.
And please state your name for the record.
Joe Wilson Jr., Director of Art, Culture, and Tourism.
Director, thank you so much for coming this evening,
Thank you for having me.
certainly. Would you like to talk to us about this contract, the First Works contract?
Sure, this is a brand new RFP that we put out beginning of last year. And this is for a 2-year contract with a 1-year option year. So this would take us through 3 years of the next 3 festivals. So it's $300,000 per year is what we will be providing our vendor, who is our fiduciary and producing partner. And so it's 300,000 this year, 300 next year, and then we'll have an option on the 3rd year.
So the option, if we exercise the option, it would be another 300.
That's correct.
So really it would be 900.
Well, I think that there's still flexibility in that 3rd year. It does, I'm not sure whether it has to, we have to double check this, but I'm not sure whether it has to be 300,000. But we have an option of going with them or not going with them. So I think that's why it's 600,000.
Okay. All right, and then First Works is going to be the provider for PDD Fest, is that
Our
correct?
producing partner, correct?
Okay, so this is for PDD Fest for 2 years and then a possible 3rd year.
That's correct.
But you're not sure what the 3rd year is.
I think it's safe to say it would be the 300,000, but I would want to double check that before I commit.
Okay, my issue is that the amount, I understand the contract is a 2-year contract and it's 300 each. I'm having a little problem with, you know, if there's a 1-year option, that can be, are there any conditions exercising the 1 year?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Any, like, for instance, is there just an automatic 1-year option?
No, it's not automatic. ACT and the city can choose not to go exercise the 3rd year option of the contract. So this is not automatic. The only thing that's automatic are the 2 years, the $600,000.
Okay, counselors, questions? I should say.
Sure, thank you for being here, Director. I have 2 questions. So I guess the first question is, whatever, I always qualify my questions, so I'll just won't do that. Why a 2-year contract instead of a 1 year with then future options, especially given the financial situation of the city?
Well, what has always been a challenge with PDD Fest is the short time frame in which we have to operationalize what ostensibly is a $1 million festival. When I came on board with the city 2 years ago, we did a 1 year, I put an RFP for 1 year with 1 year option. That becomes really difficult with going back to contract and the delay it provides, because literally, this is the earliest we've had an RFP potentially in place in the 3 years that I've been involved in producing the festival. Weeks costs us dollars in this festival.
Yeah.
For example, we are starting to raise money this year, or the earliest that we've ever raised, starting March 1st. There have been times when I didn't enter into contract with First Works until the middle of April. And by that point, with sponsorships,
Most businesses have allocated money by that time. Sponsorship, as we all know, talk to any 501c3, and we aren't even a 501c3. And mind you, the $300,000 is a part of what it takes to produce this festival, which is range. In my first year, it's $850,000 festival, $875,000 festival, sorry. Last year, because we changed locations back to downtown, which meant that it was more expensive in terms of insurance, more expensive in terms of security, more expensive in terms of tech, because obviously we had more stages back on the downtown footprint. It was a $951,000 festival. This year, right now, we have a $927,000 festival, and my goal is to get that number ultimately just shy of $900,000 for this year's festival.
Okay.
But again, it becomes a difficult matrix, and the issue that has been traditionally, and I know we took a lot of flack 2 years ago, it's no secret, number one, about the change of date. That change of date was essential for us as a department, because number one, we had in essence 2 of our largest festivals back to back with RI Pride and PVD Fest. And the fact that the festival came right before the it's either sandwiched at the end of our budgetary year, or it's come at the beginning of our budgetary year. And both of those have some challenges.
Yeah.
And so this is why getting the RFP in place now, we can be in fundraising. Obviously, we won't see the $300,000 potentially if this is approved until July. And so there's a lot of moving parts in terms of the time frame that we have. But I thought that by giving us a 2-year contract with a 1-year option, it will also allow us. The problem with the festival traditionally has been that we plan, the festival happens, and there's a drop off point.
Yeah.
We can't continue with an online presence. We can't really, ramp up fundraising right away because I'm always going back to the contract, right? And so this way, I wanted to give us, and also I'm looking at revamping the PDD website. So in order to do all these things and have sort of a year-round activation on PDD Fest, that's why we have the 2-year option with this year's festival.
Awesome. Thank you. That was really thorough. I appreciate that. Can I ask another question?
Yes, please.
For the amount that you're looking for sponsorships, which I have in my notes is 275, is that consistent with like how much we got last year, or?
That's a little bit more, actually.
Okay.
We have upped that up a little bit this year because of the fact that number one, we're starting earlier, and number two, we had an extremely successful PDD Fest last year.
Yeah.
Last year, we had 75,000 people attend this festival. We had 400 plus local artists engaged in this festival. We have over 180 vendors on this footprint. There was an 80% hotel fill rate for that weekend of the festival. We had 45 plus sponsors. We had 92% of our festival attendees had a positive experience, and 76% of those attendees were repeat attendees. And overall, we generated from Friday from 5 o'clock to 9 p.m. and Saturday from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. we generated $3 million in economic impact in the city of Providence. And so this is a very important festival, obviously, for many of our artists. It's their biggest chance to perform during the year, but also we know that our vendors did really well, and particularly our downtown businesses and adjacent restaurants. This is a big deal for them. And it's at the end of what is the busiest time for many of our businesses, which is like this cultural heritage festival season. So it's a great cap off to the season. The economic impact is there. And what I'm proud to say is that we've become a lot better actually at quantifying the economic impact of this festival. That hasn't always been the case. And so even setting us up for this upcoming year, the collateral that we have, the video that we have, the photographs that we have, the data that we have, it's going to really set us up in a wonderful way going to this year. So we're really optimistic.
Thank you.
As long as the weather cooperates.
I know. Can't control the weather.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Director. Pleasure to have you here. Quick question, just to confirm, this was only one bidder applied?
That's correct.
Okay. How long was the bid RFP open for?
It was open for the standard amount of time, which I believe was, I would say, a month and a half or 2 months or whatever that is. We did have some folks come to a pre-bid conference. There was one vendor out of Atlanta and another vendor that did not identify themselves, along with FirstWorks. But FirstWorks is ultimately the only vendor that applied for this RFP. That's submitted a bid, right?
Do you think there was any room for like improvement on outreach or promoting that RFP, or do you think we did probably? best that we could to get the word out of this new RFP.
And I really appreciate that question. I think that we did the best that we could, but I think that we also have to recognize the sort of special dynamics of PDD Fest. We're one of the only cities, one of the few cities in the country that produces its own festival. And there's a reason why cities don't do this, because it's a lot of work, and it's not cheap. I think the other piece that makes this festival really, really unique is the fact that it's hyper-local. And so even vendors who talk to us in the pre-conference, particularly the folks, let's say this from Atlanta, they spoke about the fact that this was and seemed to be a local festival. And they had many questions around, their capacity with the given limited timeframe of their capacity to come into community, learn about community, understand the players in this community. And I think for many vendors, they find it a bit intimidating. And I will also say, I know there has been a lot of interest in, wanting more people to apply for this bid. But this is a big bid and a big responsibility.
Yeah.
There are not many organizations. Let me give you a sense of what First Works does. We're writing hundreds of contracts. We're managing hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they also help us on the curatorial side. Not to mention just not only the local curatorial side, but also with their connections nationally and internationally. Because let's not forget, this festival is a derivative originally of First Works programming. And so they fill a very unique function and niche with this particular festival. And so, while we are doing, for example, right now we have an RFI, for example, for our website. And of course, we're getting bids from all around the country for this RFI. But that RFI is as such that you can technically perform that responsibility and not be on site. This requires a lot of on-site in-city presence that many of our vendors, or many vendors who, at first glance, this seems like a sexy project, they just cannot commit the amount of time that requires for us to be in the same room together, viewing sites. We walk downtown dozens of times, meeting with our tech vendors, meeting with our artists, writing contracts, being responsive because they're writing contracts in tandem also with my department. It's a very difficult proposition for an outside vendor to come into. But to your point, we're always looking for ways to continue to open up this process. And that's why I'm trying to find small ways to do that, whether it be collaboration through our online presence, continuing to expand our scope of sponsors that we have for this festival. But I appreciate the comment, but your question.
My only other question, like how big is the team at First Works usually that is a part of this project?
Well, then with my team, which is 7, not all of us interact with the festival as intimately as I do, or that Alan Berry does, or that Lael Tucker does, or that Ellery Gamache does. But the team at First Works, there are 4 of them between Kathleen, Marissa, Suzanne, and Meredith. There are 4 members of their team that primarily hold the festival at First Works, and so it's 11 of us that basically produce the festival.
Well, first again, let Council Graves speak.
I just want to make a comment. I haven't been in that role before for many years. This really is a hard thing to do, for you to get somebody to come out from somewhere else and get this going. And local artists, we kind of want to hold their stuff close to themselves, and then there's jealousy, within the ranks. Why did you pick this person out? And so there's a lot of stuff going on. And everybody will say, we have enough people here that are qualified. Why are we doing X, Y, and Z? I realize that the money is important, but the whole point of the PVD Fest was to bring the city together. Not to bring in, I mean, we want to bring in everybody that we can, and we're able to do that with the locals. And I really think that the more we rely on the artists that we have here and getting stuff together, I think that's the best thing for us, because as you know, we are a big city in Rhode Island, but we are a small town in other people's eyes, and that's a different, different type of flavor. When I was down in New Orleans, when they had their little festival, a lot of people do the same thing. They have their own little small things that generate people coming from all around. But this is to promote the pride in that community. This is to promote the pride in the community at large, that we can go down there and spot artists that we know, we see, and we can see whenever we want to see it because they're local. And it's hard for you to do something every single year. Like you said, if you don't have somebody really dedicated to doing it all the time, all year long, it's hard. So I applaud First Works. I think, and I don't think this is a lot of money. I really don't. I think 2 years is a good thing. It lets you know, okay, they can continue to do this, or this is working, or that's not working, and they get a chance to talk to everybody else in the city and figure out what can work better. I myself think it's a great thing just the way it is, back in the city, back where it belongs, and back in the community, because as I say all the time, we all have our sides of town, but downtown is everybody's town. It belongs to all of us, and that mentality shines through with the PVD fest. And so I applaud you guys for doing it. I think it's great. I'm glad that you're back. I am one of the ones that will scream and holler, leave the time where it's at, leave the place where it's at, and just go from there. But I think we gotta remember what the point of it was from the very beginning. It was to get us as a city to come together. And it worked out. I mean, I would love to see the tables back out there and us eating a meal, with the long tables, and you just go sit with whoever you happen to sit with. That's when you sit down and you enjoy your meal. And I think if anything, we need a little bit more of that, not a little less.
If I may also add, and it may be, you may not want more color commentary, but you can tell me to shut up. I think it's important to recognize the First Works is that they put together a budget for a festival that's close to $1 million. But this RFP is for 300,000, and they received 30% of the 300,000, not of the $1 million that they manage with this festival. And I think that really gets lost. And they have not asked for a dime increase over the 11 years that they have done this festival. And I will also say that I think for many out of state vendors, the idea of a $60,000 pay out on a $1 million festival that they would have to include travel time, accommodations. I think that many out of town vendors would find that to be a little bit difficult and unattractive. And so there is something to be said for First Works, not only commitment to this festival, but their commitment to year after year doing the kind of work that they do and the scope of the work that they do. And they really have not gotten an increase at all in how much actually goes directly to pay other salaries. Even when I look at the money that we spend for marketing, all of those figures have really remained pretty constant. And the one other thing I'll say about this festival is coming into this, it was one of the most, that first year that I was on the job, that had to be one of the most painful times of my career. It was a very difficult time for all of us, but that to say that this is such an important event for the city of Providence, and it's such an important event, more importantly, for our artists, creatives, and also as the councilman has said, we have data and we have had interviews and focus groups that say time and time again that this festival is about not only quality of life, but wellness. This festival helps to stem identity-based violence when you have 75,000 people, cross-gender, race, socioeconomic class, who are all downtown to have a great time. And I think especially also as we, in the priority of our mayor, in that as we think about what is the economic future of this city, the economic future of this city has to be tied directly into our creative capital. The economic viability of the city has been on the backs of our creatives since we were making textiles and building boats. And it continues to be the case here in terms of, you know, our restaurants, bars, our design sector, our artists. I mean, we recently released a Life at Night study, which showed that our creative sector generates $990 million a year for the city of Providence. And this festival is also a part of that fabric. And so I'm proud of the work that we've done. We will continue to do better. We'll continue to find ways to make this festival sustainable, generate additional sources of income. But we're really proud of what we did last year, and I'm really more importantly proud of the lessons that we learned from our first time at the rodeo 2 years ago.
Okay, I think our Madam Auditor has some questions and concerns she'd like to raise.
First question is, you put the amount of the bid in the specifications. Why?
The 300,000 or
You put 300,000, you told them how much the city was going to give them. There was nothing that the city wanted to do. I mean, you basically just said, like, here's a grant for $300,000, tell me what you're going to do with it.
But in the RFP, as I understand it, it is stated that this is all contingent upon city council approval. And so, that,
Your specifications are like 4 pages, and it's basically saying, you know, we want to have it, we want to be a partner with you. It's very, very limited. It doesn't say what kind of festival, it doesn't say what kind of activities there are. It's not very specific at all. It's just very, very brief. It just, I mean, there's multiple times you're telling them you have $300,000. So I've never ever saw dollar value in specifications, because you eliminate competitive bidding. Because now someone is gonna say, oh, I can't do that for 300,000. They don't know, as probably as good as PVD First Works does, what happens. So all that being said, suppose you don't get the 275 in the sponsorship and the 286 and the other support. What happens to the festival? What happens to it? Does the city not have it, or do we just have less activities? What happens?
what happens is I make cuts. That's been the case every year. Because we do start off with a projection on a budget, but we actually start off with actually no money with that projection. We try to have a surplus every year that we can, you know, between a $15,000 to $20,000 surplus every year that we can use to begin to pay bills, and put down deposits earlier in the season. But that has been the case every year with this festival. Whether it falls in, it's less of a problem if it falls in June than where it is now. But actually, this is all based upon speculation. And so I am constantly adjusting my budget over the course of our planning process to make sure that we can pay, that we program and we can pay for.
May I ask, who seeks out the sponsorships and what is other support?
We also receive grant monies from Providence Tourism Council traditionally. And you're looking at the guy who seeks out sponsorships along with Marissa from First Works.
So you're working with them to accomplish everything here,
That's correct.
okay? May I go on?
And I believe it also states in the RFP, and maybe I'm wrong, that while the RFP is written for $300,000, we let the applicants or the potential vendors know that this is a festival that is up to $1 million festival.
Yes, you say maybe as large as 1 million annually. But I don't know how you can dictate that to someone, because what if they wanted to do 1.2 million, because I can raise 500,000? I don't know. I just think that your specifications are really weak. That's just my comment. That's all. I'm not saying that the PVD Fest is bad. I'm just saying the specifications are really, really weak. I think they're geared towards one vendor. That's just my personal opinion. That being said, Michael, this may be a question for you. If you have a 2-year bid with the 1-year option, and you have bids for year 1 and year 2, but not the option year, how can you ever award that option year when you never disclose what the amount would be in the option year? I know I've done bids like that, and I've had to disclose what the option years is. I can't come back 2 years later and go, oh yeah, by the way, this is what I'm gonna bid. It has to be opened, it has to be publicly opened when my bids are opened. Is that not accurate?
Let me make sure I understand your question. So Are you saying it's something other than them coming back for the third year with the same exact terms as the previous two?
There were no terms. They didn't provide a number. They never said the terms were the same. They never said anything. There's nothing. It's something
I'd
that
have to, I'd
happens.
have
It
to,
happens a lot. It happens a lot. They just don't give a number. They just say, we're gonna do an option year, but they never provide a number. This is not exclusively you, I'm sorry. But this happens a lot.
it sounds like a more global question that deserves a little more attention than,
Okay.
but
So might I suggest, I mean, I understand your need and the timeliness and the 9 yards, but that is an important question. That was my question. You know, we don't have any amount assigned to the third year. So if we exercise the option for the third year, how much is that? And there's no mechanism, I don't believe, for it to come back. We have to know exactly what it is we're committing financially to, correct?
Although I will say, if you did opt to move it out, it is depending on budget availability. So if you didn't have the funding available in the year, you could say, I'm sorry, we don't have it this year, if the funding's not available.
And so that could be part of our condition of the approval, or that it comes back to us. How do we get it back before us? I guess that's the question. So,
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is the way, based on what the auditor just said, the way it comes back before us is through the budget in the third year, like if we. So that's kind of hidden, but it's still like, we'd have to allocate the $300,000.
I think they would still have to come back to the Board of Contract and Supply to seek approval for that third year, because there's no number assigned. And it's definitely gonna be at least 50% of the award, so it would just get referred, but I won't be here.
all right, well, that is what I needed to hear. I needed to hear that it would have to
There
come
is a
back.
mechanism-
before
there is a
contract
mechanism.
and supply to exercise the option.
Yeah.
With that, thank you, that helps quite a bit. So I'm not sure we need to, I don't know, I guess I would prefer to what you would like to do.
I have a motion to approve.
A second.
Okay. A motion made to approve by Counselor Anderson, seconded by Counselor Graves. All in favor? Aye. All opposed. Thank you. Thank you so much, Director, for coming to see us.
Thank you.
TV Fest. So we are very excited to have it continue to be downtown. And thank you very much. And thank you, Madam.
I appreciate y'all, thank you.
Okay. So, agenda item 5, please.
Communication from His Honor the Mayor dated February 6, 2025, informing the honorable members of the City Council that pursuant to sections 302B and 1009 of the Providence Home Rule Charter of 1980, as amended in Public Law, Chapter 45 through 50, Sections 1 through 31, passed in 1987. He is this day reappointing Ms. Bianca Rodriguez of 70 Sawyer Street, Providence, Rhode Island, 02907, as a member of the Zoning Board of Review for a term to expire on January 31st, 2030, and respectfully submit the same for your approval.
Ms. Rodriguez, how are you? Good, if you wouldn't mind standing, we'll swear you in.
Do you swear on the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And to state your name.
Bianca Rodriguez.
Have a seat. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
So I see that you are applying to be appointed to the zoning board of review. So wonderful. And I was just wondering if you wouldn't mind, just giving us a little bit about your background. We do have your resume in front of us. And also just tell us, also why it is you want to serve on the zoning board of review.
So I've been a resident of Providence for almost 2 decades now. I'm raising 2 girls here. I've worked for the state for the last 10 years in Providence, first for the public defender's office and for probation and parole. Being on the zoning board has let me basically keep a pulse on the physical and economic growth of Providence, and it's been my honor to be there and to be able to listen to the constituents. And also, I want to thank you, Chairwoman and Councilman Sanchez, for both, to spending time to either write letters or attend the zoning boards, because we love hearing from you, and just getting your perspective on things is so important, so we really appreciate it.
And can you tell us a little bit about what it is you've learned, while you've been serving on the board?
Well, of course, so there's different elements that every applicant needs to meet to have their variance approved, their dimensional variance special use. Or just normal use variances. And when they come before us, they have to speak to all those elements, just make sure that everything is according to the city's plan. And basically just provide enough evidence to prove that they are, or that their applications are able to be approved under all the normal standards.
I'm sorry, I'm asking one more question, because I used to serve on the zoning board. Just interested, do you feel that you have a lot of enough different backgrounds on the board to make informed decisions?
I do. I feel like it's on the board in general, there is a variety of people that make up it, and it's a little bit of different backgrounds. So it's just everyone's perspective is so important. So it's good. It's a good board to be on.
And are you serving as or have you been serving as an alternate or a full member?
A full member.
Okay, great. Questions?
No, thank you for your service.
We just appreciate you. How long have you served on the board so far?
I think it's almost 4 years now.
And you'd still like to?
I am.
Just asking.
We always have familiar faces. He does not miss a meeting.
Thank you so much for your service. We appreciate you waiting this evening. Is there a motion? Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion to approve by Councilor Anderbaugh, seconded by Councilor Sanchez. All in favor? Aye. All opposed. Thank you so much for your service. Okay, we'll move right along to the agenda item 5. No, 6.
Communication from His Honor the Mayor dated February 19th, 2025, informing the honorable members of the City Council that pursuant to sections 302B and 1102 of the Providence Home Rule Charter of 1980, as amended in Public Law, Chapter 45 through 50, Sections 1 through 31, passed in 1987, he is this day appointing Erlen Rogel of 21 Lynch Street, Providence, Rhode Island, 02908, as a member of the Board of Licenses for a term to expire on January 31st, 2028, and respectfully submits the same for your approval. Mr. Rogel replaces Ms. Burnell, whose term expired on January 31st, 2025.
Can you please join us at the table?
Swear to penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. And please state your name again for the record.
Thank you so much for joining us. Boy, you've been before us so many times. I'm just gonna say, I think we all are very familiar with your resume, and always very appreciative of your willingness to continue in public service. I just wanted to ask, why licensing board?
Sure. The Board of License plays a really important role in the city. So obviously, we're steward of the city's, small business economy, it's economic vitality. And you have to balance that because you're also, a protector of the residents of the city of Providence, ensuring public safety, quality of life issues are addressed. That people have peace of mind. So it's an important role. And I see that I bring a skill set and an experience that lends itself really well to the role. As you guys have seen in my resume, I've served on the Providence School Board before. Sometimes they just can be contentious. Sometimes they just have a media spotlight on them. Sometimes it's external pressures, internal pressures, competing stakeholder interests. Not been able, I think, to successfully navigate many of those issues in a setting such as the Providence School Board. And I think I bring that same level of steadiness and objectivity to this role.
I have represented as councilwoman some of my constituents with the licensing board, and often find the experience, I'm going to say, frustrating. I understand, I'm also an attorney, so I understand the parameters But I feel that what might be missing is a true ability to listen to the, I'm gonna say I've been in on noise complaints from certain bars. And so a certain bar. And I'm just, wondering what your perspective is in terms of how you will approach making sure that you're listening and hearing residents' complaints about some of the licenses being issued.
I think that the board's obligation first and foremost are to the residents of the city of Providence. As you stated, there are parameters within the role of a member of the Board of Licenses. And that role is further minimized when the appeal decisions from the board go up to the Department of Business Review. But I do think that sometimes members of the Board of Licenses have to make decisions that protect the interests of the residents of Providence. Even if it means that even if it's gonna be overturned at the next level, if it ensures 2 more weeks of public peace and safety, then it's been worth it. So that's how I feel about that.
I appreciate the candor about that because oftentimes if it's appealed, the decision is appealed. It's often overturned and it's frustrating. It's really frustrating.
It's an issue and I've spoken about this before. Mary Loiza at one point explored amending Rhode Island state law because right now they have a de novo review of decisions made at the Board of Licenses. And what he advocated for, and I think it's a fair point, is that it should be more of an appellate review. So there's a deference of fact finding. So if you don't start all over again, if you have that type of level of review, I think that there is deference to the decisions made at the local level, which is less alternative decisions.
I appreciate that. I do. Other questions? No.
I have a question. I just want to say your name, Erlen.
Yes.
Okay. I have young triplet cousins there, Erlen, Earlene. And so I'm looking at your name saying, oh my God, I do
Ever.
that was my first time hearing it too, so I don't know. Maybe it's the new name, how to every year. But that was my only comment. I agree with you on the noise thing. And also, I think sometimes if people feel like certain people are being granted, more leeway than other people are being granted. So if we could just make it appear a lot more fair than what it sometimes appears fair.
I think that's extremely fair, and I think it's been a criticism of the board in the past. There've been, a couple of reports that have cited the inconsistencies, the disparate treatment, the disparate consequences and penalties that are imposed. And what's fair for residents, it's what's fair for businesses. Businesses are asking for the same thing: predictability, consistency, and fairness.
Yes. I think you'll be a wonderful addition, so.
Any other comments? Any motions?
I make motion to accept.
So good.
Okay, the motion to approve, made by Councilor Graves, seconded by Councilor Sanchez. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Earl and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much, Councilor. I appreciate it.
Okay, now we're back to agenda item number 1. Director Silveria, I really appreciate you staying. I realized why you were here, so thank you.
An ordinance amending chapter 17, officers and employees, article 3, compensation and other benefits, division 1 in general, section 17 through 57, holiday pay.
Okay, and I think that we have our deputy director of policy, Miguel Youngs, is going to present on this. Yes. Did we swear you in?
Is it a good idea? To swear on the penalty of perjury, that testimony we're about to give is true, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
And please put your name.
Miguel Yanis. All right, thank you, everybody. I'm the chair. This ordinance is pretty straightforward. It was introduced by Councilwoman Harris co-sponsored by Councilwoman Graves and Council President. It may seem almost redundant, but what it actually does is codify Juneteenth as a city holiday, which as we currently function, it is established by executive order every year. This would sort of just like clean up that process. Juneteenth was made a federal holiday in 2021, was officially made a state holiday 2023, and then 2024 was the first year. So it's just making an official city holiday. And then probably of less interest to this committee, but you'll notice another slight tweak while we're in there. We saw that the code still reflects Armistice Day, so we just updated that to Veterans Day. So that's all it does.
And also, so because it will be recognized as a holiday and we will have, the employees, the city employees will, be paid for the holiday.
Right.
And so I asked Director Silveria if she would be so kind as to, prepare a fiscal note. I just wanted to know if it was, what it would be costing us in terms of, if there would be a cost, which I assume there will. Or maybe not, what the fiscal impact would be on the city. So I think Director Silveria to be prepared to know.
We have it right here. Pass it around.
Thank you.
And I just want to, just to clarify that we have been paying employees for this holiday since we've been recognizing it, so. This fiscal note is based on actual experience, and most of the cost is for the cost for union contracts and overtime. So the estimated cost for the Juneteenth holiday is around $282,000 for police, fire, 1033 overtime.
I really appreciate you putting this together, only because we can be prepared to answer any questions. I certainly have no problem. We should be asking for fiscal notes if there's, ordinances that we pass, and I'm afraid I've been really thorough in doing that, but I thought it was important that we have this piece of information. I think it's important that we recognize the holiday and that we pay our employees. That's my personal opinion. I don't know how the committee will feel, but if anyone has any comments or questions, please go right ahead. Yeah, please.
Considering what it was.
Yeah. You gonna make a motion then?
Any concerns?
Any regrets?
No, I have no.
Madam Chair, do you wanna put
Oh,
this-
yes, I'm sorry. Yes, you can actually
I
have this marked as exhibit number one, make the motion.
So moved. Two.
Okay, two, exhibit
Didn't
two.
you think you
exhibit
already
one.
have one?
Or
We
no,
didn't
Oh,
enter
it's
anything
yesterday.
else.
No,
Okay, exhibit one. So moved. All right. All right, the motion made by Councilor Overbaugh, seconded by Councilor Sanchez, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Now on the ordinance. Is there any
Is there-
comment down there at the end of the table?
Disgusting.
Yes, forget.
Motion to approve item one.
Okay.
Second.
Motion approved made by Councilor Overbaugh, seconded by Councilor Grimes. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Yeah,
Thank you, I'm sorry that we kept you director.
Yeah.
All right, with that, I think we have no more business, so may I?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Yeah.
Councilor Overbaugh, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, oh, by the way,